The views expressed in this podcast belong solely to the NCS Graduate Volunteer Podcast team and or the guests featured in the podcast. Therefore, these views do not represent Learn by Design as a company nor its employees.
Hello everyone, welcome to GradCast. My name is Simran and I'm 17.
My name is Cordis Marie and I'm also 17.
I'm Grace, I'm also 17.
I'm Joyce and I'm 18.
So guys, what do you think the meaning of life is? Because it's something that has been around for so long, but I feel like there's never one sort of straight cut answer. So I'd love to hear what you guys think.
The meaning of life has changed for me over time. And especially being so young, I still have no understanding of what meaning of life is. But from what I have gathered throughout my experience, I guess, is that it's a constant battle between you figuring out who you are and then trying to apply that to the rest of the world, and then trying to prove yourself almost to make yourself stand out. And when for me at least, the meaning of life is me finding out who I am and what I can contribute to the rest of the world. So yeah,
Definitely.
I heard this thing where, you know how you have the Oculus Rift and VR, where you go into virtual reality. Someone said that our meaning of life was to create another virtual reality for us to live in, because our world's going to collapse, and then their life was going to be another virtual reality so they can carry on living. But it would just be one computer program in another computer program in another computer program. We'll just keep developing it until we forget the exact why we started it in the first place.
Whoa, that's crazy. And I feel like definitely the simulation argument has increased a lot more recently. I think it's become a lot more common than how much it used to be before. I think it's actually really interesting how you mentioned how there's if you think about it, there's loads of different ways we have been categorized into different people. If you think of astrology, for example, there's 12 star signs, so we're all sort of categorized in a way like that. And there's I think it's the Myers-Briggs test, where there's 16 different personalities. I don't know what you guys think about that, but astrology wise, I'm an Aquarius, and whenever I see those astrology posts on Instagram or something, I just look at them and I'm like, why is this so relatable? This is just who I am. Even though if I don't necessarily believe in all of it, some of it is so accurate that it just makes me think maybe it is true. What do you think?
I think I was so against the whole idea that the stars could totally predict who I was going to be and what I was going to become. And I remember a while ago, I looked at the star sign Virgo, because I'm a Virgo, and it said, you could become a journalist, lawyer, this that, and I was like, yeah, that's not me. no way. Now I want to become a journalist, and I keep looking at my star signs and thinking, is there back to the simulation thing, is there a code that everyone's supposed to follow? And is there this thing where we're all categorized and everyone has to do a certain thing? And we in this society, we're constantly told be whoever you want to be, but these star signs are telling us otherwise, that we are going to be these certain things. And it's so creepy to me. It's so creepy and it's so crazy, and I think that it's just strange how accurate it is, but I also have a feeling that everyone has their own uniqueness, and everyone's meaning of life is different and unique to them, but it all kind of matches and coordinates with everybody else's, because we all align and we all meet and we all have different perspectives of life, and yet we all come together as one, as a human race, to move on and make changes and go throughout life kind of unsure but also excited for what the future holds. And I think that that's quite magical, and it's something that I didn't think 100%. About before this podcast, and it's strange. It's strange. It's one of those like late night conversations you had with yourself, like when you can't sleep. It's like, oh damn, like what am I supposed to be? Like, where is this going? I'm so confused. Like, what am I supposed to be? What is the meaning of life? Why are the stars shaped like this? You know, it's kind of quintessential questions that you ask yourself.
Literally, I always do that. Like, whenever I can't sleep, I just start overthinking and overthinking and overthinking. But I 100% agree with you, because I do think that every person has a purpose. Like, whether that's to you or like to the greater world. I feel like the interactions we have, like, people can either be like a blessing or a lesson in your life. That's just something that I've always thought of. But yeah, Joyce, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
So for me, astrology is totally different with everything you said. Not totally, but it's like something you said makes sense. But like I am crazy for astrology. Me and my friend, we used to go around and don't ask people for their like characters, ask them questions, and then we would guess their sign. And most of the time we would get it right. Because the thing is, astrology now is a science. It's not just something that is out of our world. It's now a science. It's proven. There is people who study for it. And our signs are our sun. So there is inside your astrology map, you have so many other things that you have to look into. So your sun may not be your main one. So that's why many people say it's not true, because I don't feel connected with my sign, and that I don't believe it. So the thing is that your sun doesn't make you that exact person. So you have your moon, you have your ascendant, you have your other things that there is different other signs. So inside your map you can have all other signs, and each one means love, means family, means something else that could relate to you. I think the meaning of life as well is knowing how to deal with other people, how to know yourself first, and then go meet other people and be respectful to others.
No, definitely. I feel like getting to know yourself is definitely a journey, and I don't think we're all born knowing our purpose and knowing what the meaning of life is. I think it can be things like astrology that help guide us into that direction. So I do agree with you, Joyce, as well, with what you're saying. And yeah, I think definitely as we get older, we're definitely gonna have more of life lessons to learn and like grow from. But Grace, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say that going back to Corder's Marie, when you said that like if we're like pre-programmed when we're like born with like our star signs, and like we are predicted to be a certain way, what like does that link to like free will? Like, do we actually have free will, or do we just like have to do something as we say it? Because I don't think we have free will at all. I think we're made to believe we have it, but really we don't have any free will to do what we want.
I mean, being a Catholic, free will has always been like implemented and like hammered down in the religion. Like, you have free will, you were given free will. It's the reason why we sin, it's the reason why you make mistakes, and that's completely fine. But thinking about that question, and like thinking about what I had said before, it's difficult to imagine that we do have free will, especially when everything seems so predetermined. And so I think our free will is less to do with the world, and it's more to do with ourselves.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because I think we only have free will. Like, we definitely do, but it can be kind of restricted sometimes, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, we still get tied up with expenses that we have to pay and things we just have to do. So that's another thing I wanted to go on actually. Like, do you guys think that something like money can buy you happiness? Can that possibly shape people's meaning of life? Joyce, what do you think about that?
So for me, money is like something that is necessary to live, but is not totally is necessary, but is not necessary at the same time. So what I mean by that is that it's necessary for us to live in this society. So this system is built that way. So if you have money, if you have power, you have something with value. And if you have something with value, you are in an upper class. You are designated by classes. So if you have less stuff, if you have less value stuff, you are poor. If you have lots of value stuff, you are rich. So that kind of system makes us think that we have to have more things, we have to have value things.
I definitely agree with that, and I think something that I thought of while you were saying that is how there's actually been a study on how lottery winners often end up going broke, which I thought was really interesting because it shows how, you know, once a person gets lots of money, they sort of forget how to act, which is quite interesting. So personally, I think there was this psychologist, I forgot their name, but they had this idea that getting loads of money sort of shifts your problems from financial problems to maybe more sort of like psychological problems maybe, or like, because if you think about it, there are loads of celebrities who probably have the money and have the fame, but they're not actually happy with themselves, and that's happened like a lot of times. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think money can buy you happiness to a complete extent. I think it can get you happiness to some extent, definitely, to, you know, help you feel financially stable and feel like, yes, my bills are going to get paid and stuff like that. But I think too much money can definitely have more probably negatives, because the more you have, you're just going to want more in a way, you know? Like, yes, like for example, if you want like new shoes, you'll be happy, but then once there's a new model, you'd want the new model, and that'd keep on going, and I think it could become a negative sort of cycle. But Cordesmere, what do you think about that?
I think going back to your point where you said that a lot of people who've just won the lottery go broke, I think for a lot of those cases it's people that didn't have money in the first place that now don't know how to handle that money, like the massive amount of money that they have, and often misuse it and like kind of deal with all their financial stuff and then splurge, and then they lose all that money. And I think that we as a society need to do better in teaching young people and people in general on how to handle money wisely and well, so that we can all help each other, because money is so poorly mishandled in society, and it's one of the biggest problems we have, especially like with equality and like classes and different things. Me as a middle class, I know that money is lower middle class, I know that money is one of my problems, but I also understand that there are bigger things than just money, and me getting my education and moving through life and trying to help myself and better myself, that's what's more important to me than money. But I also know that I need money for those processes, especially if I want to go through university and things like that. It's a need, and unfortunately for a lot of people in this country and across the world, it is a need. And I think that money is often like taken for granted, but put at a high point, like it's put on a pedestal almost, because pieces of paper almost rule the world. But we need to remember that money isn't everything, but it does help the small things, and if we can understand how to get those small things out of the way, but fix the financial stuff and focus on our mental health and us just growing as people, as a community, then money would, to answer that question, money would not be the root cause of happiness, but it would definitely aid it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially with your point. And I was thinking how like people like Jeff Bezos are on the route to becoming a trillionaire, whilst there's going to be like so many people around the world who don't even have money to like eat. So I think that money is definitely like in need of becoming more redistributed, for sure. Grace, what do you think about that?
I think I'm very lucky with what I have, and but sometimes money can't buy happiness, you know? Like I've been thinking about like the future a lot recently, because like, I went to a boarding school, and when I went to a boarding school for a bit, and it was one of the best things that I've ever done in my life. Like, I had so many trips, and I learned so much about the world because we got to go on the trips. But I was thinking about, like, a lot of the girls in my school didn't really want to learn much because they knew if they, like, stuck with a boy from that school, then they would never have to work. And then I was thinking, like, but they're just throwing out their entire lives so they can be, like, financially stable. But wouldn't you rather have, like, love than money? I want to go back to the meaning of life, because when you were talking about kids, I was like, there's, like, this really strange story that, like, when kids are born, sometimes they have, like, a connection to a past life. And there has been kids that have solved murders that were unsolved. And they're like, I can take you to the body right now, and I can take you to the weapon and the person that did it. And they solved the mystery straight up. And then there was a kid who lived in England, I think, and was like, I used to live in Ireland with my family. The landing strip next to my house was on the beach. That's where that's where I lived. I could see this. I had a dog. I had an uncle. I had this, and they went to this place, and sure enough, they landed on the beach, which they didn't know that was going to happen. They landed on the beach next to a row of houses. They drove down the house and like the road's house, and he went, this person lives there, this person lives there. I used to play with that person, I used to play with that person. And it was like 20 years down the line, but people were like, yeah, they used to live there, they used to live there. And it was like a kind of place you wouldn't know of. Like, it wouldn't be in a documentary, it wouldn't be in like a kids program, it wouldn't be anything. Like, you wouldn't really be talking about it on the playground either, because no one really knew it existed. And it was kind of like a whoa moment. Like, and then usually as kids grow older, they forget what happened in their past life. But it's really strange because they have solved murders. They've pushed things and it's came true. And it seems just very strange that there could be like a copy and paste, or like a soul can move from one body to the next without erasing a past memory, which is very strange.
That definitely is. And that's actually a really interesting story. I never knew about that at all. I think I would actually link to like a sort of religious view. Like, I think in Hinduism, there is often that like different lives being carried on sort of thing, and your soul is in your next life sort of thing. But yeah, that's really interesting. It links quite well to that actually. So, Cordis, do you have any thoughts about that?
That is so interesting. That was mind-blowing to me, because it's kind of like, have you ever like had a feeling that you could remember something, but it's never happened before? Like, does that make sense? Like, you could kind of like a deja vu kind of moment, but you can't exactly link it back to anything that you remember happening. I've had so many of those moments, but I never really understood it, so I kind of brushed it aside. But now I'm thinking, whoa, what if I did have a past life? And like, what if those past life, like, what if I'm trying to still figure out what my meaning of life is in every single kind of like life that I have? And like, what if that's kind of, at the end of it, when you do figure it out, you kind of snapped back into a new world where you have to repeat the cycle. I think that's a really, really, really interesting idea. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely so fascinating, and it links quite well to, like, from a religious point, it would link quite well to, like, karma. So, the whole thing with, like, good karma and bad karma. And doing good would mean that more good comes to you, and then doing bad means more bad would come to you at some point or another, whether that's in this life or next life. And that is definitely something that I would say I believe in. But yeah, Joyce, what do you think?
I think people that didn't do what they needed to do, or they were bad here in the world, they reincarnate themselves. They come to the world again to make things right. So for me, it's like my conspiracy theories here. So for me, people who did something wrong in while they were here, like they would, when they would die, they would come back and do something right. So for me, I think this, I don't really believe in, I believe in heaven, but I don't really believe that there is something below. So I think we are the ones that would destroy ourselves, would have someone here, like Lucifer or something, a demon to tell us what to do, or to say do something, and then we have another one that is our angel that says come, go in the right path. So we have to listen to which one we want to listen. So the negative part, if you go to that negative path, you can always come back and do the right thing, or you can fall for it over and over again.
All of our decisions that we've taken are what have led us to be at this very point right now. Like, it's literally like our life right now is the sum of all our decisions from before, and even our future is going to be the result of like a lot of our decisions. Whoa. But yeah, Grace, what was your point?
There's like a 1 in like gazillionth, billionth, trillionth chance that we are here today. Like, we've had to like, people have had to meet each other like constantly to like get to us, and then we've got to have like a series of events that's had to happen to us. And like, it's so strange because the kid I was talking about earlier that went to Ireland and was like, this is my friend's house, is who I played with. He told his mum, when you die, it's not painful. You just go into a light place and you have fun. And then when it's time, this big man tells you that it's time for you to go back down. And you can ask why, but he'll just say it's time for you to live again. And he said it's not scary. And that's what he experienced, that when he went back, like when he went up there, he saw a big man, he had fun, he met like new people, new friends. He didn't say it was scary whatsoever, but then he was pushed back down. And as he grew older, he developed like what the fear of death was. But he was like, but I know what it is. It's peace, it's calm, it's like tranquility. But people are afraid of it because they can't remember their past lives. They're afraid of it because it's just an inevitable end that you can't avoid. And also they kind of touch on, have you watched The Good Place on Netflix? Where everyone that went up into heaven, or the good place, they kind of just lost who they were, and they just kind of became dull because there was no end, they couldn't end it. And then once they put the door back in, they had a purpose to keep going, because then they could leave and they could just end it all, like fully. Which is kind of like a drive for us to do things in our life, because we know we only have maybe like 80 to 90 years to do things, and then we don't know what happens after that. I think that's what's so scary, because there's an end and you can't avoid the end. Yeah. It's really strange.
Yeah, that was like, I guess, the painful truth that it is inevitable at the end of the day. But yeah, Joyce, what was your point that you were gonna say?
Complimenting what Grace was saying, the end is inevitable. We are all gonna die. I'm not afraid of dying. This is very strange to say, but I'm more afraid of people dying than me. So I think that's what is gonna happen. I'm gonna lose people. I'm gonna die. And what I've been thinking about a long time is that through all my family members, we live life as we go. But we shouldn't live life like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna tomorrow. Procrastinating life, basically. And I was like, yeah, that's so true. And I saw something, I don't remember where it was, and there is this guy that said we have to live our days as it was our last day, because we don't know what's gonna happen. There is people who died when they were kids, there is people who died when they were teens, there's people who die when they are adults, and that's how life goes. Accidents happen and you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. You don't know if you're gonna stay alive. And even seeing all these people dying, I'm like, their stories that they left behind, their houses, their family, and I'm like, yes, that's why I want to live my life as if it's my last day, so I could enjoy it. I could actually make effort to make it look good for God or something like that. So not just for God, but for me as well. So when I die, I want to be like, I did something in this world. I am proud of myself. So Yeah.
I think like being grateful for everything you have, and you know, being grateful for all your friends and family that are in your life, I think that's something that I aim to just like act on. But Gordon, do you have anything to add on that?
Like, I want to ask why we are so captivated with the question of the meaning of life. Why can't we take life as face value, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's so true, because a lot of like movies and shows that we do have are definitely like about what is the meaning of life. I feel like a reason why might be like it's so open to interpretation. Like we will never know one sort of close cut answer, and because it's such an open sort of topic, I think that's why it's so easy to like make more movies and stuff out of it, because there will never be one answer. There will always be something new that we can build on. If you think about it, even if one of us thought we were perfect maybe a few years ago, we've come so much more further than the person we were a few years ago. And even in a few years' time, we're not going to be the same person that we are today, which is why I think that we are definitely changing as people. So I don't think it's right for any of us to say that we are perfect, because at the end of the day, we're all going to have our flaws. So I think the meaning of life, for me, would probably be finding out who we really are and finding out those flaws and working on them whilst not hurting others. That's just something that I think. But Cordis, would you agree with that?
I want to kind of link that to religion, and I'm going to make a few points on religion because we've touched on it, but we haven't really expanded on it. So to answer your question about can we be the perfect human race, I think that we have to collectively understand what our idea of perfect is, because my idea of perfect would be completely different to Joyce's idea of perfect, and that's why we have so many dystopian novels that have been written about what they think the perfect world should be and why that has failed and why it will fail. So I think that we can't be the perfect human race, because I think everybody's idea of perfect is completely individualist and it's completely our own, and not everybody's going to agree, and that's completely fine, and I think that's perfect in its own kind of way. And then moving to religion, in the Abrahamic religions, I think the perfect world would have been the Garden of Eden, Eden. And so that where people didn't sin, people didn't make mistakes, everyone was in harmony with nature. And I think that I saw something on TikTok and it was talking about how the aim of witchcraft was to tie nature and humanity together and make a religion of harmony, if that makes sense. It's nothing to do with the devil as how Christianity has portrayed it. It's more of living in harmony, basically. And I thought how interesting that was, because witches and wizards, I guess, I don't know enough about it, but I think their meaning of life would be to fix what has been like taken from us and what we've lost, and like making everyone harmonize with each other, with nature, and so on. And I think that a lot of religions, such as the Judaism, Christianity, kind of lost it and kind of made it kind of demonic. And that's why so many people have so many disagreements, and that's why we can never be perfect and we can never agree with each other and try and move forward. Instead of listening to each other and trying to find the similarities, we constantly find differences. And so we've lost that crucial part of our lives that connect us, and we think that we're above everything else in this world, and I think that's so wrong. And so what I admire about witchcraft is that they try and take nature and bind themselves with it and live as we were supposed to, or like kind of live as we were hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years ago, but kind of bringing that into the new millennium. And I think that's so interesting. So yeah.
Oh, That is definitely really interesting, and I think that like coexisting is something that is going to be a struggle, like especially given that like everyone has so many different opinions about things, and in a way I feel like people having some different opinions about some topics is what makes it interesting. I feel like if everyone had exactly the same opinions and exactly the same outlooks about everything, life would be quite boring, and if everyone's meaning of life was the same, I don't think it would be as interesting as our life is right now. But yeah, Grace, what was your point that you were gonna make?
I feel like the meaning of life for me is still like, I'm still more or less on the track of, we need to get our heads sorted and being like, yeah, we need to like make sure everyone else is like equal to us. It doesn't have to be humans. Like, yeah, we're all equal, but like think about like a parrot or like a worm still has a life, or we're in a simulation. Because I think the simulation theory is very like possible, like the ones and zeros, if we dive deep into like our cells and things, which is kind of bizarre to me. But like, I feel like we need to get them two together. There's also this theory where people are like putting us in a world and fast forwarding and like seeing what we will do. Like they'll try and make like the perfect race, and they'll put us in a world, fast forward, and they'll be like, oh, they killed it with nuclear war. Another try. Oh, they killed it with overpopulation. Oh, they killed it with overfishing. Oh, they did that. And like they'll keep going, and it's kind of like a game for them, and we could be in that game, and we could be like fast forwarding right now, and we don't know.
Okay, about what Curtis Marie was saying about the perfect human race. Yes, we can see that people are trying to be perfect, but they don't understand that we are not perfect. That's what I always say. Even God is the only perfect energy in the world. So when we think that we are equal to him, and we think we are superior than the others, and a race is superior than the others, we want power. But that's our weakness. We want power, we want everything, we would step the way we would kill, and that doesn't make us unique, that doesn't make us perfect, that makes us I don't know what I don't like to use animals, because they are such innocent creatures that I wouldn't associate something horrible to animals. So I would say they look like demons. I mean, through the history, people want perfect. They want to kill everything that it wouldn't be perfect to them. But just the way we live, just where we live, just us being unique, that makes us perfect. So I think that we are perfect in our own way, in our own world. So people, when they step into our world, for them that doesn't make sense, of course, because they don't live our lives, they don't experience the same things, so they don't understand what we go through and why we think we inside us we are perfect. And the thing is, when we are young, when we grow up, we have this anxiety and depression, is because we lost ourselves. It's because we are just thinking on other people, trying to tell us how to be perfect in their own ways, and we lost it. So when we start acting like that or experience that, my advice would be is that try and meet yourself, and to like go into your head deeper and meet yourself. Say, hi, how are you okay? And talk to yourself more. You will when you talk to yourself, you will understand more about yourself. You will understand how beautiful you are, how perfect you are, how perfect human beings are. But when we seek power, we are not perfect.
Yeah, I think definitely I agree with the fact that, with the idea that none of us are truly perfect. Because if you think about it, even if one of us thought we were perfect maybe a few years ago, we've come so much more further than the person we were a few years ago. And even in a few years' time, we're not going to be the same person that we are today. Which is why I think that we are definitely changing as people. So I don't think it's right for any of us to say that we are perfect, because at the end of the day, we're all going to have our flaws. So I think the meaning of life for me would probably be finding out who we really are and finding out those flaws and working on them whilst not hurting others. That's just something that I think. But Cordis, would you agree with that?
Yeah, what you were saying, that was something that I was thinking about as well. But also, just going back to Maslow's hierarchy, I found that level one was just like the basic human needs, food, water, things like that, and it slowly started to progress and get deeper into the emotions and what we emotionally and mentally need to survive, and to live our lives happily. And I think happiness really ties into the meaning of life, because I think that at the end of the day, we're all trying to be happy and we're all trying to live our best lives and live lives as happily as we can, and as fully and wholly as we can, which would mean to find friends, like love and find family, grow your family, live live life being the best person you possibly can be, and trying to make decisions that affects you positively but also the people around you. And that's why we have leaders and things like that. And so we live in a society that's constantly trying to make life better. And I think that the meaning of life to me, after like these discussions that we've had and these like little debates that we've had, is to include animals in that theory in our lives, include making the world better as a better place as a whole, so that we can focus on ourselves, but more importantly, living our lives so that we are not affecting other things badly. Because if we live selfishly, and only thinking about ourselves, like we often do, you know, going back to like coming out of quarantine and going back to our normal daily lives of pollution and things like that, if we continue to live like that, we will not be able to find our meaning of life, and we will not be able to find our happiness, because we're trying to make ourselves better because of that. And we're constantly trying to improve ourselves by destroying other things. And I think that's completely wrong. But this is simply my like outlook on life and how we should move forward, and kind of follow the basic theory and take life at face value, and think about the here and now, instead of what I've done, how I can change that, and how I can move forward in life, instead of the past lives and things like that. We shouldn't be trying to sort out lives that we cannot see yet, if that makes sense. We should focus on this life that we have now and try and live happily. And the way to achieve happiness is different for every individual, but we need to try and coordinate that and cooperate with other people so that we can all live happily and not just one person and like individually.
That's definitely a great summary. I think for me, like leading on from what you said, I think it's like striving for happiness, but then also not at the extent of someone else's, maybe. I think that's what I would take away from what you're saying, and I 100% agree. I think if we were to all live really selfishly, as we have seen throughout this podcast, like some people have been, I think that would ultimately just be at our own expenses. So I think striving for happiness, and whilst also making sure that others aren't affected like animals, that would be the best way to go forward. But yeah, Grace, what's your summary, and has your meaning of life changed after this podcast?
I think if we strip it down to the most basic one, it would be to find love and happiness and kind of carry on the line almost, if you go back to like the fly kind of thing, where it's kind of to reproduce and keep everything going. But if I dig deeper, I think the meaning of life is to listen to everything else, like as in like listen to like nature and trees, and listen to animals, and like because everything has, even a rock has like a spirit, kind of like it has something inside. And like the earth is a rock, really, and you kind of need to like be nice towards it, and like, what's the word, like know that it has feelings, and you could like, oh god, but yeah, you know, Or, like, I do feel like the simulation thing is still a very big possibility to me. Like, Sims, and, because, like, Sims is kind of our world, but you can control it. They don't know that you're controlling them. But you know that, like, you have a you have a feeling that there is something going on. And I feel like that feeling, it's like when you leave the house and you've forgotten your keys or something. You have that feeling, and people have that feeling about life, and you know that something's going on, but you don't know what it is. And, like, I feel like if I dig deep, I feel like it may be a simulation because of the ones and zeros when you dig into the string theory. But if we're not in a simulation, which is a possibility along with the simulation, I do think we need to have more kindness to the world, and we could kill it really soon. So I really think that we should start to, like, knuckle down and start listening to the earth rather than thinking we know best.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that as well. I think that ties in well with the other things we were saying in this podcast, because at the end of the day, like, we are the sum of our experiences, and, like, doing more good things, like, we're gonna get more good karma as well. So I think definitely tying that all in together would work really well. And Joyce, do you have anything else to add? Has your meaning of life changed?
So haven't changed as much, but the thing with animals is that I feel that everything has a balance. We have to respect animals, we have to respect each other, to respect their lives as well as ours. And that's the way the cycle works. So even in Lion King, you can say that that's how the cycle of life works. So we kill, but we don't kill as much just to waste and just to proclaim something beautiful, or here this fur of this animal is amazing in my clothes or something like that. So right now that's illegal. But yeah, that those kind of trophies shouldn't be something that you would go for it. But kill animals to eat or for necessity, yes, that's what I would go. And anyways, to finish my point is that for me the meaning of life is more about ourselves and the way we understand others. Then when we understand ourselves and then we understand others, we can actually make a difference in the world, and we can actually go for something even bigger and beautiful and do something good for the world.
Yeah, that's such a nice way to end it. I think if we all acted with more compassionate and kindness, then the world would definitely be in a better place. And I 100% agree with all the points that have been made, and bringing in, like, it all together and making sure that we're all, like, looking more into ourselves in order to see others better in a way as well is a great way to sum up what the meaning of life would be. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this episode of our podcast about the meaning of life, and we hope to see you again soon. And our socials will be linked down below in the comments, so definitely check out the next episode, and we'll see you. Bye! Thank you so much for listening to this episode of GradCast. If you liked our conversation, please like, share and subscribe, and watch out for the next episode. If there's something you'd like to hear us talk about, let us know in the comments and we'll definitely consider them. See you in the next episode. Bye!